Organisations also include community groups as well, so people are giving their time to community groups to earn time credits as well. So I'm the manager of a project which is funded by the Welsh Government, and I cover the whole of Wales. And my project specifically is to explore preventative healthcare measures, especially in older people over the age of 50, which feels a bit embarrassing because 50 isn't actually old. So it's actually catering for earn and spend opportunities for that whole age range, really. In Wales, we've recently been given a new policy called the Social Services and Wellbeing Act. And this is all about people being at the centre of decision making. It's quite chaotic and it's quite challenging, and it's a new way of delivering healthcare and care packaging. It's quite exciting, but it's scary also for healthcare professionals. But it's an opportunity for innovation, learning and change. And it's a real opportunity to really co-produce our healthcare services. And it's being delivered in patchy ways across Wales at the moment. So we sometimes think of citizenship about being the rights to vote, but actually it's about what we give and being recognised for what we can contribute, not just what we take. And it's really important to think about the reciprocity, and that's what holds the community together ultimately. Our approach at SPICE is to work with people and really to see them as assets and not as labels of age, ethnicity or illness. So often we refer to assets as buildings, equipment, resources, community centres, but actually assets really are the people in our community, and it's really recognising that people are change makers, and we see this really as the kind of answer to empowering future generations. When working with older people, sorry.
Small question. You didn't start your presentation.
I'm going to show some pictures at the end. I was, and then I thought you'd be reading them, so I've just put pictures for you. Sorry. Where was I? Sorry. So when working with older people, it's really easy to kind of focus on what people used to be able to do. And as Sarah said earlier, everyone has something to contribute. It's just quite often when you're older and you're a carer and you're looking at things that your body can't do anymore, you can say what you used to be able to do and really lose sight of what skills you still have. So a personal example of that is we've recently moved to a derelict smallholding in Wales, and we live next door to an amazing 82-year-old farmer, Dewi, and he can't walk more than a few metres, but he has a lifetime of skills. He's not earning time credits for this, but he's been teaching my husband how to take care of the land, and it's a really beautiful reciprocal relationship, because although Dewi can't get off his quad bike, he actually rings my husband every day and says, right, what are we going to do now? So it's a really good example of valuing the skills of older people. And my husband wouldn't be able to do the work he's doing without Dewi's knowledge. So, it's really important to value the skills that people have, even if they have mobility issues. At SPICE, we have a network of spend partners across the UK, some of which have different motivators for being a spend partner. Some, if they're a large organisation like the Millennium Centre, they just might purely want people to come along for secondary spend and get, bums on seats if they've got a small performance. Or it might be another organisation that actually needs to get a certain demographic through the door to get their lottery funding. So all our opportunities are experience-based, and they range from places that sound jazzy, like St Paul's Cathedral, Tower of London. What we generally find is that, particularly with older people spend, that isn't where the impact is made. There are rugby matches, which in Wales go like gold dust, but really it's theatre shows which are becoming kind of more of an increasing popular spend of older people. We get excited on a daily basis when we hear about people spending their time credits, whether it is a trip to Blackpool Tower with their community group, or going to the theatre for the first time, or getting their hair cut for the first time, getting a haircut or a pamper session. So we're working quite a lot with local colleges who are supporting people there as well, or hearing about they've sent their grandchildren on a trip to bowling or skating. Where we're seeing that biggest change is when people spend their time credits locally. So that's more around peer support groups, around dementia care, or tea dances or cuppa clubs. And this connection to local community is really where I'm witnessing the biggest change on time credits, and celebrating acts of kindness as a way of kind of strengthening community cohesion. So my project in SPICE is all about ageing well, connecting and valuing people, and really improving and strengthening those social connections, and therefore increasing physical health. And the main thing is trying to measure the impact around reducing access to formal services. So in Wales, the latest census figures show that we have 20% of the overall Welsh population being over the age of 50, and demographic modelling shows that this number is set to increase by 50% by 2037. So we really do need to look at how we're delivering our services. So as the number of older people increase as a proportion of the population, the demand for long-term care is also likely to increase significantly. And this is kind of a really good opportunity to look for innovations in informal care, which once again is really an opportunity for alternative currencies. Local authorities are increasingly recognising the benefits of informal care in the home. And I've recently started working in 2 extra care schemes, which are 2 brand new buildings that have been built in Carmarthenshire in the last year. And they're devoid of culture because they've got, 200 people who've moved into individual flats there. So they're earning time credits by setting up street buddy schemes. But what's quite interesting with these projects is they'll have the community post office, the community shop, the laundrette and all those facilities underneath, and they're based next to comprehensive schools. So they're becoming hub buildings. And there's an opportunity then for the organisation, which is the building, to look at using time credits, getting school choirs in or hiring out their venue, or there's just a whole range of things happening there. So that's quite an exciting way forward. There's an increasing evidence that the level of social interaction is really a key determinant of the health and well-being of older people. And the Marmot review, which we've had in the UK, really shows that you can map the health inequalities to people who've got a lower economic background. So generally, more affluent people are more inclined to just naturally volunteer their time. But what we're finding is that people, particularly in the valleys areas of Wales, who are really struggling to pay their bills, they haven't got time for volunteering. So although it is controversial, that side of things, of that reward-based incentive, it really does make a difference for some people being able to volunteer for that experience-based time credit and be able to use that to pay for a child's birthday party or an outing for their street to go to a castle. So another part of my work at Spice is to launch a campaign for positive ageing, which goes live next week. So I'll show you my little video about that afterwards. And my campaign really is to kind of challenge the perceptions of older people in our communities. So what I found was within a few weeks of working at Spice, I started hearing lots of people saying to me, as I said before, that they felt guilty for being an older person, that they feel like they're a drain on NHS resources, and again, about what people used to be able to do. So my campaign really is going to be about challenging those perceptions, because it's a fact that loneliness is the equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and it can genuinely shorten your life by 10 years. So reducing loneliness and isolation is paramount to the work that I'm using time credits to look at. So the answer to this problem is making our communities feel more connected and really trying to stop viewing things in silos, budget headings, departments and organisations. Evaluation is something that we're quite good at. That is one slide I will show you, if I can get that. So what we're finding at the moment, our new impact report is going to be launched next week. Can you see that?
Maybe you can make it better. Can you do it? Can you make it?
So what we're finding is that 77% of people have a positive impact on their quality of life. 60% of people are saying that they're feeling healthier using time credits. And 66% know more about services available to them. And 40% can afford to do more, which is really important for a lot of the families we're working with. 58% are saying that they have an increase in their social contact, and 46% have not regularly given their time before. And what we're finding is an incredible 30% report needing to see the doctor less. So 70% are saying their level of social contact has increased as a result of time credits. And there's a lovely one here saying that 12% of people have actually set up new community groups since being involved in time credits. And those are the type of people who wouldn't normally be involved in active volunteering. So time credits are supporting people to view themselves as assets, value their knowledge and their skills and their experience. So our vision is to see communities and individuals regardless of age and be really at the centre of addressing health and social care needs. And we're not to lose sight of the fact that people are change makers, and that's a great thing. It's really powerful to remove labels of illness, age and status. Asking what people can do is a question we should be asking people every day, irrespective of age, and it's really transformative. My work is with older people, but this ethos works with everyone. I'm a professional, and a few years ago, I was told to get my affairs in order and to go to a hospice. And no 35-year-old mum wants to hear those words. Actually, no human wants to hear those words. 2 years ago, I couldn't walk, and I couldn't talk for 6 months, which is quite hard to believe now. And my husband had to help me wash and get dressed daily. So I was in hospital when I saw my current post advertised, and I applied, and then I retracted my application as I didn't think, being disabled, that I could do the role. And my manager Rachel rang me and asked me, tell me what you can do, not what you can't. And no one had ever asked me that question while I'd been ill. So I'm not better, I'm not cured, I'm still disabled, but I'm no longer seen for being ill. And I'm not just waiting for my next consultant appointment. People now ask me about my work, my kids, my life, not just my illness. I'm not a perfected public speaker, but I've made it on the plane here by myself, and I'm here today sharing my story with you. And the same approach works with older people. It's really important to find those little skills that people have and create the perfect spend opportunities for them. I started trialling social prescribing, which is where we prescribe time credits in doctors' surgeries, and I soon realised there was a huge potential for this work. And last week we had 2 new members of staff starting, and they're going to be covering 10 GP practices in quite a localised area in my home. It's like a doctor's surgery, so they're going to be covering, it's quite a big role. There's going to be 2 of them covering 10 practices, 1 day for admin and 4 in the surgeries. So they'll be actually given an appointment when you go to see a doctor, and they'll have an hour with the social prescribers who will map what their interests and what their skills are, how connected they are in their community, and we're measuring the impact of time credits over a year with them, and also doing a return on investment cost evaluation on that too. So the idea is that if somebody says that we met one lady recently who told us that she was great at making, like with buffets, you've got leftover sandwiches. She makes them in lots of meetings. She makes them into like bakes and cakes and things, and even like meat sandwiches, she can make them into that. So she actually goes to WI groups, and she's earning time credits now for giving her skills in that way. So if somebody has got a skill where it might be more... Well, oh yes, sorry. Women's Institute. So we've got groups where we've got older... Actually, it's any women in the UK, Women's Institutes, the skills that women have. So she's earning time credits by giving speeches about different catering skills that she's got. And so it's kind of taking away that model where in a doctor's surgery in the UK, you might be prescribed to go to the gym or to go for physiotherapy. Here they'll be prescribed 5 time credits where they have to give a promise that they will give that time back afterwards. So it's a slightly different model that we've had to play with, where we're giving them their time credits and getting them to spend, and then they're connected, and then they're rewarded, and they want to do more earning. So we're mapping the impact of that. And if there isn't somewhere they can earn time credits, it's a social prescriber's role to find a way that they can earn their time credits, because that's really important for them. And although it's new, I can't anticipate that there's anyone there who hasn't got a skill to offer. So it's the first of its kind in the UK. It's going to be learning, and I'm sure there's going to be some mistakes on the way, but it's really exciting times. What's great about this model is traditionally they might have been prescribed at the gym,